Hello, everyone, and welcome to Afternoon Tea. This is episode just 12, I think. My name is Brittany, and I'm so glad you guys are joining us on January 9th here. So, yes, I am back stateside. I do apologize because sometimes when I'm traveling, I'm not so good at keeping everybody up to date about where I am and what I'm doing. And I got caught up, if you're not aware, in Europe, there were some really massive snowstorms, not only just in Copenhagen, but in France and Amsterdam and everything. So my travel home got very, very messed up. And so I ended up traveling, I think, for like 24 hours to finally get home. It was really, really crazy. And so because of that, I didn't do anything yesterday. I think I spent most of the day sleeping. So we are back though. So glad to be back. So glad to be back doing the afternoon tea program. And there is quite a lot to talk about. Of course, we have Catherine, who's celebrating her 44th birthday today. So, very, very exciting news there. And oh my gosh, on X, the number of happy birthdays from various places all over the world connected to the British royal family. Westminster Abbey, when they were in Boston, the US, the British Embassy in the US, like so many different locations, all wishing her a very, very happy birthday. And it's sort of interesting to see like the big comparison between Meghan Markle and Catherine, because Catherine gets so many birthday wishes. Meghan, not so much, not so much. And then we have, of course, the continuing meltdown over Megan's stock reveals for as ever. And I do have to say right now, guys, I do apologize because I need to get you more of a Substack going over all the numbers that I have and how I came to some of my conclusions. But with my flights changing and everything, it was a rough travel period, a rough trip in some ways, because there were a lot of late nights and early mornings. Like I was staying up till 2 and 3 a.m. some nights, getting up at, 5 a.m., 6 a.m. after staying up until like midnight and stuff like that. So much like there was not a lot of sleep to be had. Let's just put it that way. But I do find it fascinating, again, just even from a business perspective and everything, the cope Megan and her stands are taking in order to try to make this whole thing like less of a train wreck than it is kind of hysterical. Is like really, really hysterical because it's like, oh, come on, guys. Really? Really? Like it's very, very clear that Megan in this instance, like the brand's not doing well. It's just not. It's just not. And this is why I think they tried to manage the fallout, and it always makes it worse. Anytime Megan tries to manage the fallout of something dumb that has happened, it always makes it infinitely more worse. So, just putting that out there. We also have Harry's continued security case. And so that obviously a lot of people have questions about that, what that means and everything like that. And we don't have like an official word yet, although some people are reporting that. I feel like it's kind of interesting that Harry and Meghan, again, much to their detriment, are already claiming victory before victory has officially been had. And if I was the British government, I'd be going, okay, this guy just cannot keep his trap shut. Like, are we doing this? But it's just a craziness for sure. We also have some like really exciting, hopefully, royal news coming up this year because we do have the 80th birthday celebrations of King Carl Gustaf in Sweden, and there will be a gala. Very, very excited about that. I am because I'm hoping to go. I did actually just make my hotel reservations, which I can cancel because I always do that just in case something doesn't work out. And so I'm really hoping that that works. And we might also have around the same time the confirmation in I guess you would call it the Lutheran Church for Prince Vincent and Princess Josephine, because that came up when I was in Denmark. Because I could hear one of the photographers, he's one of the only other native English speakers there, talking to them, going, yes, I would love to cover the confirmation of the twins later this year. And I'm like, confirmation? Oh, yeah. They have their church confirmation later this year. So I'm hoping, because it usually happens in the spring, they happen around the same times. That way we can kind of bulk everything together because I like to do as much as possible. So, and we do have, because of the 50th wedding anniversary of King Carl Gustaf and Queen Sylvia of Sweden as well, there's going to be a big to do on Trooping the Color Day. So there'll be actually two big royal events on the same day. I find it interesting that they are doing that. So, just so much to be had, of course, and I do wanna go over some of, like, hopefully I remember, because 'cause I've been working on another project I need to do kind of early for the fashion channel, so I've been working on getting that done today. And so I need to sort of share and go over some of the other, like, royal things, because we do have Meghan Markle, like, there is a video from her on her Instagram, which is actually what I used in my thumbnail today, where I'm like, "She looks like she hates you." Like, she wants you to buy her stuff, and yet she looks like she hates you. What's all going on with that? We will definitely be like, there's just so much going on, guys. So exciting, so great way to start off the year, and some really bad reporting from the Times of London as well. I do have to say, I found this last night, and I was like, "Okay, that doesn't even make any sense." So, and then we do have an update from the Times as well, saying that his police security is not as nailed on as he thinks. So we have a lot of differing opinions here, and it's just like one of those crazy things for sure. But let's go ahead and go over. We do have Carol who dropped a super chat. Thank you so much, Carol. For 4.99, they said they are claiming we are seeing negative stories when analytics and metrics are just that. Yes, it is not just a negative interpretation. She has years of inventory on her shelf right now. You don't ever want to have that as a business, and that's just bad. And like the cope is insane. It's absolutely insane, the cope from the fans. And just going, "You're just making it up." I'm like, "No." And they're like, "She sold millions." I'm like, "How?" Oh my goodness. And of course, Megan does the thing that she never should do, which is always give us too much information, because she told us, I mean, people have said she's kind of prefaces it, but like she was looking into ordering a million jars. And wouldn't you know it, if you kind of calculate things, you can kind of calculate that, oh, hey, she has 600,000 jars on hand still. And so if she ordered a million, she didn't go through that million, did she? Because there's some probably that haven't been used, some that probably broke, some that have already been used. Like, she gives us all way too much information, and like the reality is just there. It's not something that can be changed. And Carol also gifted one Royal News Network membership. Why, thank you so much, Carol. To make up, guys, we will have a members only chat on Monday. So we'll probably do one with everyone just to kick off the year, just because, oh, there's so much going on, guys. It's just been absolute insanity. And when I travel a lot, it's just very overwhelming at times. So when I was skipping between Copenhagen and Hungary, and when I would go out my hotel, guys, I had multiple layers on. So I actually went out when I came back to Copenhagen from Hungary. I went out and I bought a base layer from North Face. It was on sale. So I bought a shirt base layer and a pant base layer. I would wear my thermal Lululemon leggings underneath a bigger pair of jeans. And I would what else would I do? And I had the base layer on. I had my cashmere sweater thing over that from Nordstrom. And then I would have my Royal News Network zip up North Face thing on over that. And then the big jacket over that. So it was so many layers. So I was like really sad when my initial flight got canceled, because I'm like, I just want to go home where it's warm. It's still a bit chilly here, but not as cold as it is over there. My goodness. Carol said security is only determined by Ravik. Terry is touting his horn before Ravik has decided the issue. Thank you so much for the super chat, Carol. And yes, that is of course the case there. So, I was kind of coming out blazing, going, "Yeah, I've already got it." Like, there's just nothing I feel like that annoys people than that. So Debbie Keefe, Princess Kate, really? And don't give me the algorithm argument. I just Googled Princess of Wales and Diana did not pop up once. Very disappointed. Okay, guys, there's something called character limits and titles. I've explained this before. There's character limits and titles. Sometimes Princess Kate is the best I can do. If you want Kate, if you're going to complain, I'll start doing Kate Middleton, because all I hear are a lot of people complaining, and it's becomes very, very obnoxious, by the way. So let's go ahead and talk about Catherine here real quick, because there was a Great Times of London article that did come out, and I thought it was just really interesting to hear some little bits about Catherine that we haven't really heard before. So this is from Kate Manessy. And I know some people get really, really on to royal reporters, and it's just a little bit ridiculous, some of it, because sometimes they are reporting. Sometimes are bad reports that do need to be handled out, but some people just didn't like this, and I just didn't quite understand why. And so this was really sweet because it talked about how Catherine apparently her biggest thing is that she always loses her phone. So she had sat down to do a podcast with a author, Giovanna Fletcher, and, she asked, "Does Kate get mom guilt?" Of course. Any regrets? Well, there are definitely things she would do differently. Any tips for enduring labor? Hypnobirthing all the way. Catherine says, off air, they had a chat about feral children and how Kate struggles to keep track of her stuff. Fletcher says, she told me that she is notoriously bad at keeping an eye on her phone. She always loses her phone. All of her Christmas presents that year were related to her keeping track of her phone. It was all about her not losing her phone. And it's kind of funny because obviously Catherine has been very clear that wants to be sort of anti, let's say, technology in some ways. And so her not being super attached to her phone, I think really does go to reflect that, because I think Meghan is the opposite. I think Meghan is very attached to her phone and yet claiming that she doesn't want to. What does she not want to do? That she, is against, Google and Facebook or whatever, because, they're exploiting kids or what have you. Oh, yeah, we do have to look over some of that video from Oprah Daily as well. But anyways, I just thought that little anecdote, yes, it's not, let's say, something super big, something super exciting, anything like that. But what I like about the anecdote is that I did feel like it confirms what we know about her, which is that she is wanting people to get out into nature. She's wanting them to put down their devices, and she lives by what she preaches because she doesn't know where her phone is. She doesn't keep track of it. It is not a huge, huge component of her life to keep track of her phone. Now, I will say for security reasons, she probably should keep a better eye on her phone, because I'm sure there's some sort of, let's say, button on there that she can click in case of emergencies and these sorts of things. Or she might just have something on her person at all times that she can press a button, kind of like the life alert, something to that effect that immediately lets their security know, hey, there's a huge issue. I need you ASAP. And so I just did think that very much confirmed that she is somebody who lives by what she preaches. So there's Catherine earlier last year. It seems weird to say last year. And so what Fletcher says as well is what I think surprised me is how nervous we both were at the top of the chat. I think there's no denying that when you talk to Catherine, she means what she means to the country, what influence she will have on life going forward, and can have with her early years campaigning. So I think I was nervous because of that. She was nervous because she knew that what she was about to speak in a way that she had never spoken before. So William was there and he said, just talk. So he was supportive. And his wife took his advice, and the tea grew cold from them as a 45-minute chat became a 90-minute no-holds-barred interview. Although I don't feel like we got too much from that interview at the same time, but that is interesting. So Catherine set up the Early Years Foundation not too long after that. She often says, people think I'm doing this just because I'm a mother, but it's actually not about children. It's about adults. And I will say always the challenge with the early years is that you won't see whatever metrics are the result for years and years if you ever see them at all. Because unfortunately, there's so much you can do, but unfortunately as well, you also kind of run the risk of something like there's so many factors in the home that you can't control. So this is from Christian Guy, who says there's a sense that the center has a "your country needs you" type of message, and whom Kate has been publicly thanked for holding for at the center during her illness, and says that she is ambitious for the project. One of the key things to understand, he says, is that the earliest years, this period of profound human development, and the way we build brains and set people up for their future is a job for everybody. This is a societal cause. This is not just a job for parents and those caring for babies and young children. She is very determined to help inspire and inform everyone who can play their part. Now, I agree with this and somewhat disagree with that. I'm not always a fan of like it's like everybody's responsibility, because obviously the parents hold the greatest responsibility in that case. But it's interesting. So we do have Catherine will just likely call or email. So William is known for using WhatsApp for his staff in Duchy of Cornwall, sometimes, let's say, texting and messaging them dozens of times over the weekend. She has her reticence when it comes to smartphone. Part of her mission is to spread the word about the importance of a child's first years, including an essay that they wrote together that she wrote together with Professor Robert Waldringer. And so let's speak here. Speaking to Waldringer, it's easy to see why his charm, intelligence, and innate sense of calm have endeared her to the princess, a smiley 74-year-old, not your average academic. So he's also a Zen priest, or Roshi, term for Zen Buddhist leader. So she's leaned a little bit on that. And then in April, she told Chief Scout Dwayne Fields that she has had a spiritual and intentional emotional reconnection with nature, and later the order of service for her annual carol concert in Westminster Abbey in December featured the William Morris quote, "Love is enough." And so we also saw that she shared the last of her seasonal series and videos. And so on a human level, if you go through an experience like that, it changes you when it comes to Catherine's cancer diagnosis, and it can change you for the good. At heart, they're both good, proper people. While you never wish it upon them, it's made them stronger as a couple and stronger as individuals, with probably more wisdom than they've had before. And when your kids are young, you just barrel forward at great pace, and everything is just about the growth of the family. And with this, the obviously cliche, but sort of stops you in your tracks. So we have some of that as well. And then, obviously, with all the focus on nature and love, we should expect to see a future queen with garlands of flowers instead of crowns. Not so fast. Kate appreciates that her enduring love routine must go hand in hand with other aspects of the princess gig, or what one royal source refers to as the crowns and gowns elements of the job. So Catherine was identified in the 2025 Best Dressed list by Vogue UK as an eternal influencer and culture shaper whose quiet support can change the trajectory of a brand. Now, it is interesting though, guys, because over the last couple of months, we've had, I want to say last 6 months, we've seen a lot of brands with pseudo connections to royalty fold or in the process of folding. And so I did do a video, which I recorded today and will be available maybe next week or something, that kind of goes over these brand failings and how, yes, a royal wearing your brand can definitely highlight it to the rest of the world, but it can also have a detrimental impact as well. So it's kind of a double-edged sword, I think, because so much attention can lead to challenges. Now, this is actually the really, really interesting piece of this whole article, and definitely one that is worthwhile to explore. It says, when the royal family welcomed Frank Walter Steinmeier, the president of Germany, for this estate banquet in December, I'm told that it was the princess's idea to wear the Queen Victoria's Oriental circlet tiara, an heirloom designed for her husband's great-great-great-great-grandmother by her consort, German-born Prince Albert. Highlighting the Windsor's long-standing ties with the country, Kate combined it with a lilac gown from one of her favorite designers, Jenny Packham. So this was a really interesting tidbit, I thought. And I did want to do a whole tiara video about it, but probably I will be able to do it maybe later. But what I thought was really interesting here is that it was Catherine's choice, as if she's the one who, how it's portrayed is that she thought of it and requested it. Now, what I find really interesting about that is that we know sort of how the Brits have generally utilized their tiaras over the years, which is that you are given one or two from the crown, and that's sort of it. And you kind of, divide your time between those particular tiaras. Now, I have said, and I've been hoping that we have more of a system under, let's say, Queen Camilla versus Queen Elizabeth, because I think Queen Elizabeth was very much following Queen Mary's directives on this matter, is that when it comes to the tiaras, that Catherine is able to go, yeah, I want to wear this one. That's, again, really, really fascinating to me, because it kind of reflects that she doesn't have to always choose the lover's knot. She likes it. She wears it quite a bit. and that's her, so let's say, personal preferred choice. But it's also interesting that she can go, well, I want to wear that one that is a queen level tiara. Because this is the big thing here, is that the Oriental Circlet was a queen level tiara. It had only been worn by queens. And in the royal sphere, if you watch royals quite a bit, you know, there are something called like the big gun tiaras. So the big gun tiaras are the biggest in the collections, only worn by the queen. And they generally are sort of set. So in Sweden, for example, because I've been thinking about Sweden, it's the Braganza, the cameo, really. That has been worn by other people on special occasions, but mostly just worn by the queen. The 9 provinces, or no, not 9 provinces. It's 9 prongs, Queen Sophia's tiara. That is worn pretty much by Sylvia, although has been worn by others. And then the Loschenberg sapphire. And so, which was also technically worn by one of the king's sisters, because he has 4 of them, or had 4 of them. So when in royal families, there are just ones that are particularly reserved for whoever is queen at the time. You know, in Spain, it's like the Fleur de Lis. In the Netherlands, it's the Stuart, it's the Württemberg, it's the sapphire tiara. Like, there are certain tiaras that are only reserved for the queen, and that generally like doesn't change. So that Catherine ended up wearing one that had only been previously worn by queens, and one that even Queen Elizabeth II only wore one single time. And it was a tiara that particularly the Queen Mother really loved. And Queen Elizabeth, even though she technically could have said, hey, I want this tiara back, I want to wear it, she let her mom keep it for the rest of her life and only wore it once in 2005. And so it has been in the vault for 20 years. And Catherine has been really good about bringing out some interesting pieces from the vault. She brought out the Strathmore Rose. Now we have the Oriental Circlet. So I'm curious what we might see more of. And I'm really, really hoping that there's more general sharing between the ladies. But so far, the only reason I still hesitate on that initial, let's say, suggestion is that I don't see Sophie getting very many options yet. She did get to wear the lotus flower once, but since then she's been stuck with her aquamarine necklace tiara. Like, even the ribbon tiara was taken by Queen Camilla. So I'm just sitting here thinking, I was like, okay, when is Sophie going to get her due? Because I feel like Sophie, there are like the Queen Mary's bandeau she could wear. She could wear the Cartier halo. She could wear the Strathmore Rose. Like, Sophie could wear, I think, a lot of the, what should I say? A lot of the sort of lower end ones. And so it's just curious. It's just curious what this could mean in the future. So I'm more optimistic than I was, but at the same time, I'm still sort of pessimistic about the tiara game in the UK. Now, if Catherine's just more willing to go into the vault and pick out sort of random things, that's better for the future. But Sophie has also done that too. Or sorry, not Sophie. Camilla has also done that too. She wore like a stomacher, which like everybody was like, they didn't know what that was. Like, where did it come from? And then she's worn, I think, 1 or 2 other things that haven't been seen in a long time, or are just not things that we see often. So it is a curious factor for sure, one that I am anxiously awaiting to see more of. But again, we're being cautiously optimistic here. Cautiously optimistic, because I've been really excited, and then sometimes I'm like, okay, we're still watching people wear the same thing all the time. Like, what's going on here? And Camilla wore the Girls of Great Britain and Ireland, which she's worn quite a bit. That one had been part of the Edwardian exhibition. And so it's just really interesting. Like, I'm so curious. I want to know so badly. But this little tidbit about Catherine specifically being able to request and wear that tiara, I'm noting it. I'm like, I'm very curious about that. And I would have always expected somebody to wear that one because of its German connections. So, for example, when the French president went to visit Sweden like a year or 2 ago, when he came, all the ladies wore tiaras that had a connection to France. And Sweden has quite a few. So they obviously had a huge collection to choose from. The cameo was worn. The, what is it? The Napoleonic amethyst was worn. Like the tiaras I thought they would wear, they did wear because they have a particular connection to France. And so when it comes to like the Netherlands, if they host Luxembourg, they'll bring tiaras or wear tiaras that have a connection to Luxembourg because they do have close family ties. Same thing with Belgium. So they generally do choose pieces that reflect the family ties that often go back centuries. So that just was really, really something quite interesting and quite exciting. Like, I am very, very like intrigued. And so, as I'm gonna ask here real quick, any new state visits in the UK? Not that I know of yet. And we do have one coming up in Denmark later this month, or Denmark is going out and doing some visits. But in the UK, I haven't heard. But last year, we only got the state visits in July, September, and December. So in the latter half of the year. So I don't know if we'll have one in the earlier half of the year, but we do have reports that Charles and Camilla are going to the US in April. We've heard sort of later April. I hope it's not too late of April because I was really hoping to go to Sweden for King Carl Gustaf's 80th birthday bash. Really wanting to go see that. And so I'm hoping that that's the case there. But when it comes to, let's say, goodness, what is it? About the UK, that I don't know. We won't hear probably until later in the year. And William and Catherine have been both suggested as going to the United States later this year. And so, yeah, that is what we're looking at right now. So let's go ahead. We do have a couple of super chats here real quick. Steven says, Brittany, don't forget William and Catherine can now grant royal warrants for goods and services. Catherine could give an as ever royal endorsement. Thank you so much for the £5 super chat. I mean, probably not. Catherine and William haven't really exercised this right yet at all. And so we don't know when they're going to do this, but I'm sure she has some brands jockeying for that royal warrant. I would imagine, even though technically Sarah Burton has left, Alexander McQueen has been quite good to Catherine. So I think they probably deserve one. I mean, we could have a couple others, although Catherine was a really big fan of L.K. Bennett for a real long time, but then L.K. Bennett has definitely fallen on hard times. So don't know about that. And so we shall see what they decide to do for any royal warrants. And we do have Dr. M41. Thank you so much for the super chat as well, saying, what is the process for selecting which tiaras are worn by the royal family members, and does the final authority rest with the monarch or royal dressers? So I would imagine it rests with the monarch or the consort. So it could be in this particular instance, and I would imagine this is probably largely true, that Charles doesn't probably like sit around thinking, what lady can wear which tiara? Like, I don't think he probably cares that much, to be honest. But he understands the message tiaras share, because we do have, and I want to do this for the fashion channel, which is probably why I'm not going to touch much on it here. But in Denmark, Queen Margrethe chose the tiara. It's like the Nasut tiara or something. It's Naasut. And it was made by Greenland. It was a gift from Greenland to the Queen. And it was very interesting, the timing of this, because obviously the discussion of the US taking Denmark's territory, which is Greenland, has ramped up. And then after the New Year's Gala, we had the capture of Nicolas Maduro. And so what I find really interesting is that that wearing that tiara, I don't think was an accident. I think was actually there to send a very strong message. And so I think tiaras are chosen not only by, whatever they're wearing, what have you, but they're there to send a message as well. In this case, with the United States, a political message. But now when it comes back to when we pull it back and who gets to choose to wear what, it's a process that is determined by hierarchy, blood, and these sorts of things. So my always thought process has been basically is that the Queen gets the first choice of tiaras. I think especially in Sweden and the Netherlands, this is how it works because they have such large collections. The Queen gets the first crack at it. And there's some that are reserved just for the Queen. And so she gets first crack at it. And of course, she chooses one if they have, again, a particular connection to a country. She chooses that. Or for Maxima, in the case back in 2024, for Spain's state visit because of their close relationship, Catherine Amalia staying in Spain for a period of time during her studies. Maxima, as a courtesy, brought out her biggest tiara, which was the full Stuart. So that was Maxima's choice. And then the next person who gets to choose after that, at least in the Netherlands, would probably be Amalia or her grandmother, Beatrix. Now, I would imagine it's mostly Amalia because Beatrix is not really attending many state functions anymore. She was the former queen who abdicated. And so Maxima, or, in the case of the UK, Camilla, then Catherine. Now, in another aspect of the system, I think it would go Camilla, Catherine, perhaps then Princess Anne. And the reason is that blood does matter in these situations. So in Sweden, different example, but I think the order of actually choosing tiaras would go Sylvia, Crown Princess Victoria, Princess Madeline, and then Princess Sophia. Princess Sophia is married to Carl Philip, who's higher up in the line of successions, because in the order of the children born to the current king, it's Victoria, Carl Philip, and Madeline. But because Madeline is the daughter of the king and she is blood related to the family, and she has, let's say, a greater family connection to the history of the tiaras, like the Connaught and those sorts of things, she gets first choice after her older sister, and then Sophia gets the last choice. Or even Carl Philip's sisters, like Christina still attends quite a few royal events. Christina would come in maybe even after that. Because we do see Sophia a lot. I think it is her personal preference, but we do see her wear a lot her wedding tiara with different toppers. She changes out the toppers all the time. She has worn other pieces from the royal collection. And so I think she does have, of course, access to it. But she sort of gets the last pick. And again, I don't have a ton of evidence for this, but being a blood royal does matter. Like we've heard, even when Catherine married in, if she wasn't with William, she would have to curtsy to Beatrice, Eugenie, and Anne. And that's because she's not a blood princess. And it sort of makes sense. It's maybe archaic from our perspective, but in that world, that is what sort of kind of runs the day. And so that's, I think, what we see most of the time. So it's not a dresser. It is whoever, let's say, has the authority in that particular, or who's higher up in the line of succession. Because the other interesting factor is, and again, we have a lot of diverse perspectives on this topic. So we don't really know, let's say, definitively for sure. But when it comes to Meghan Markle and always the report of the alleged emerald tiara that she was going to wear for her wedding, that obviously went to Eugenie. Eugenie got to wear the emerald. Now, it could be the case, as Meghan and Harry claim, although I don't think it's true, that she always wanted the tiara that she got to wear. I don't think that's the case. I think she did want the emerald. But because Eugenie was a blood princess, if, let's say, both of them were given, let's say, an idea of what was available to them, and they both chose the same one, Queen Elizabeth would give the emerald to Eugenie over Meghan, because Eugenie is her actual granddaughter, whereas Meghan is just marrying into the family. So this is, I think, pretty consistent across most lines in royal families. It depends on hierarchy, it depends on blood. Those are sort of the main factors. Some people have their own personal tiaras that they own, or in Diana's case, a family tiara, as in the Spencer tiara that she got to wear, that, other members of her family got to wear, but not any other members of the royal family. Princess Anne has tiaras she personally owns and that she wears. So, and she doesn't seem to, I don't think, care that much about getting something else, but I'm really hoping Sophie can get something else. She does have the aquamarine necklace tiara is hers. She has the sort of funky looking tiara that they made from pieces of Queen Victoria's jewelry that she wore for her wedding. So she does have some options, but I'm just hoping more become available because I think she deserves more. But tiara politics, who gets to wear what, is quite a lengthy and involved process. And I think it's mostly a women's world role thing. I think it's mostly, Camille probably has the tiara purse strings, you could say. But we don't know that for sure because they're not super transparent about this, but that's always been my thought. The Flying Dutchman, 28, who's been a member for 25 months, said, joined late. Who decides who gets to wear what tiaras and what age they can access certain tiaras? So it's not as much age. It is usually who's up in the line of succession. But there is this misconception, and I think she's like the Countess of Sandwich or something. She runs a YouTube channel, and she has said that you only get to wear a tiara after you're married. it's on your marriage day and beyond, that's when you get to wear a tiara. I've seen that not be true really by any evidence, really, because most of the continental Europe, a lot of the girls get tiaras when they turn 18, or they are lent ones when they turn 18. So Amalia started wearing them when she was 18. Princess Elizabeth of Belgium got a tiara when she was 18. Ingrid Alexandra got a tiara when she was 18. Princess Estelle of Sweden will start wearing tiaras when she's 18. So it's as soon as they turn 18 that and they start attending state functions, that's when they can start wearing tiaras. And in the UK, we know Princess Anne wore tiaras before her wedding, and so did Princess Margaret. So I think it's more, let's say, some aspects of the aristocracy that don't start wearing tiaras until after their weddings. But when it comes to actual royal family, that's not the case. Many of them have worn tiaras before their weddings. And so I think that's just sort of a misconception. But I've seen that people share that a lot, but it's just simply not true. So Lizzie B's gifted one Royal News Network membership. Why, thank you so much, Lizzie. I really do appreciate that so much. And I'm sure somebody else in the chat will as well. So let's see if there's anything else interesting here. But I love the tidbit about the tiaras there. So it says, with her help apparently approving, there has been suggestion that Kate and William will make a joint foreign visit this year, perhaps to the U.S. for the 250th anniversary of the independence. Queen Elizabeth visited the U.S. in 1976 for America's bicentennial. Catherine and Melania appear to get on well with their shared interest in scouting movement. It could be sort of gold dust. Keir Starmer needs to continue to woo an American president who seems less interested in spending his voters' money on supporting his European allies in the face of Russian aggression in Ukraine. So that is something to look forward to. So let's see. And then we have, of course, Prince Louis, Prince George, and I thought it was really interesting that Kate pointed out here, which is true, that Catherine and William both did a good job sort of deflecting the idea and the narrative that Prince Louis is like a big handful and that George is so obviously sensible and stuff. And they say, well, behind the closed doors is a different story. And I'm sure it is. And kids are all different. And I like the fact that they're trying to avoid a negative Louis story before he's an adult, because he is a child. So kids are kids. So I do appreciate that. So of course, there's still a question of where he will go to secondary school. Will it be Eton or Marlborough? College, we don't know yet. So she does feel the pressure to get it right. It's why the school runs and sporting fixtures are important, as is time with grandparents Carol and Michael Middleton. He is also used to helping on errands with one Windsor local, recalling how they once bumped into a young Prince George at a soft furnishing shop where he was happily eating orange segments while Granny Carol picked up fabric samples. I thought that was really cute. And they've obviously moved to Forest Lodge now, and they are secure at Windsor with Catherine's parents not being too far away. So apparently there's a sense of wary inevitability in William's camp when Harry decided to announce his trip to Canada for the Remembrance Tide at the start of his brother's visit to Brazil. If Kate has learned anything from her cancer ordeals in the teaching of Robert Waldinger, however, she'll know life's far too short to get hung up on Harry. So they're not getting too focused on the Harry and Meghan thing, which I think is really smart. And so aides say the princess shares her husband's desire for impactful change. Kate, as queen, may also be more ambitious and bold than any of us appreciate. Just don't expect her to respond to messages while she's on the school run. Perhaps she is in no rush to find her phone after all. So I thought that was really kind of fun. And I honestly don't think, guys, that Catherine is sitting there, again, on her phone all the time. And I feel like Meghan is definitely somebody who is on her phone all the time. I imagine she's on her phone quite a bit. Again, don't have really tons of evidence for that. But I think that is a huge difference there. And I think it reflects that Catherine does live by what she preaches, which I think is so, so important. Is because and that's, the big problem Meghan has had is that people don't think she lives by what she preaches. And so it's harder for her message to really come across and gain traction, because it's like, hey, she's saying this, but, she's saying social media bad, and yet she's on social media. I will say the one thing I'm really hoping that we get from Catherine and William at some point is a little bit better social media strategy. And although Andrew Parsons, I think, does a good job like editorially for taking pictures, I think I think we could use a little bit more dynamic pictures and images and interactions from the Wales' social media team. I think they need a different photographer. I think the Danes, again, do the best at that, if I'm being quite honest. I think it's why, despite having a very small country, they have 1.1 million followers. It's because their social media is pretty good. It's pretty good. And so I think that makes such a like, because there's a difference between the editorial style images, which is what I take, which is just like I'm just taking pictures as fast as humanly possible, hoping one turns out. And so it's just kind of like static more versus kind of the dynamic. And so I actually had a picture from my recent trip to Denmark where I was like, ooh, this is more of like dynamic. And I like this dynamism here that I have that I feel like would fit with the editorial style that the Danes are going for. But yeah, I do need to do a whole behind the scenes thing for the members of what things went right, what things went wrong. Because the second day I had kind of finally figured out the flash situation. And I had this guy from a television network, and I knew as soon as he came over to our spot, I was like, crap, he has this huge camera. He's going to be in our way. And of course he was. He was like leaning out like past the partition. And I got in trouble once for like leaning past the partition, but I'm like, but if he's going to do it, I'm going to do it, because if I don't do it, I won't see them until they're literally like 2 feet in front of me. And so some of my pictures aren't great. It was a little bit frustrating, but anyways, just something to share out there for those of you who might be interested. It is not like have great appreciation for the royal photographers, because that is not an easy job. It's easier if you have like the backstage access and you can kind of go wherever you need to go to get the pictures. But yeah. So yeah, Stacy says, Brittany, you took some really good pictures. You seem that you were pretty close to the royals. Yes, you are very close. And especially when they come in, they're probably about 5 feet from you. And then they turn this hallway and they're about 2 to 3 feet from you. And so they were very close to me. And I'm just not as good at, moving the focus and everything, and like the focal length and all that. I'm still learning, because it is, guys, it's seconds. It's like that. It feels so fast. I actually got shoved my last day, because I was like, you could stand in one section, then you could move over to somewhere else. And so I moved over to somewhere else after I got done with my section. And I guess apparently, even though I was like perfectly legit where I was a little bit in somebody's way, and she sort of shoved me out of the way a little bit. So I just thought, I was like, wow, I like really feel like I'm in the zone here, because we're getting very serious. So it is very, very fast. It's very fast. And I wish I had all the time in the world to create like the most artistic pictures and stuff like that. Most of the time, if I come up with something, like if I come up with something artistic, it's a complete accident. It's a complete and utter accident. So it was not planned. Wait, this one. So let me see if, so I did change computers, guys. So on my trip, I had a smaller computer, and I did that so it would be easier to travel with, because I knew I was going to get stuck, and I was going to have to take Ryanair. Thankfully, guys, very minimal Ryanair issues. And so I thought that was kind of nice that I didn't have as many issues. So anyways, guys, when it comes to like the dynamic picture, this is sort of what I'm talking about here, is this one. So obviously you can't see her feet. You should be able to see her feet. Obviously the image is crooked a bit, and it shouldn't be crooked, but I actually think that's actually a more interesting picture. So you can have, let's say, the flat ones where they're just walking, kind of like that. And that's a good picture. I mean, I should be able to see her feet, and that's on me for not getting the right picture. Anyways, so that's fine. But I actually think this is a more interesting picture. I think it's more interesting. And so that's kind of what I'm talking about. So, Trisha Tinker says, Brittany, I enjoy your videos because it seems as though you're speaking directly to me. That is a rare quality on YouTube. Keep up the great work. Why, thank you. I really try. I try. So, yes. Oh, and Grace Mark asks, did they catch the dude cheating? They are still together. So this is obviously a story from 2023. If you're not aware, King Frederick, at the time Crown Prince Frederick, went to Madrid for the weekend, And he did stay overnight, it appeared like, in the apartment of a single woman who they claim is a friend. Now, we don't know what really happened. All I will say is that it was a very dumb move of him to do. Like, even if nothing happened, it still looks bad. It's all about optics, guys. So much of sometimes PR and looking good in situations, it's all about the optics of the situation. So whether or not you did something good or bad, the optics look bad. So ergo, you did do bad. So, or not, you did do bad, but you look bad. So there are ways to mitigate that. It's like, just go to a hotel room. Red says, I love Mary in this gown, but why is the coat on the shoulders? It covers up the gown. So she took it off later, but it was very, very cold. It was very, very cold. So I do not fault her at all for wearing a like a coat like that. So, anyways, so yeah, this is, and so you can actually see Frederick is actually a bit more in focus there. So these are actually available to purchase on Alamy, actually. So, and then we get, this is this little hallway thing. So she is very close to me. And so is he. So you can see the earring and move and everything. Very cool. But of course, it happens in seconds. And then we did get a close up of her hair. And you can actually see, guys, the bobby pins. You can see the bobby pins holding the hair up. So, anyways, just in case you were curious how it works, I need to do, again, a whole behind the scenes thing. It is very, it's so interesting and so like tight and like feels like you just feel the adrenaline and you're like, the royals are coming, the royals are coming. Will I get the picture? Will I get the picture? Dr. M, you're very sweet, saying, Brittany, you're clearly doing well. A few of those shots were really stand out, especially considering how tough the setup was. Yeah, the setup, especially the last time, was really, really tough. And so that was definitely a challenge. I actually meant, when they turned the corner, I actually meant to do videos, but I'd actually accidentally like shut the video function off on my phone, and it would have taken me too much time to actually get it back up. Because again, that hallway is very, very short. And so, or at least what we see of it is very short. So I'd like just pull the camera back up again. So anyways, yeah, it's good. But it's definitely, I like sharing that aspect of it, because not only does it give you a better appreciation for what the actual photographers go through, which is quite intense, but it gives you an idea of, like, kind of what I see between the difference of what we get from Catherine and William and what we get from Mary and Frederick. And if you actually look at the pictures on Instagram, you can see the difference between the dynamism and how they stand out that the Denmark does versus Catherine and William, which just feel like editorial images, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But I think they need to use more filters, use different things to make it just a bit pop a bit more. But that's just my 2 cents. That's just my 2 cents. So, all right. Nika says, you did a great job. Thank you. I would definitely have been too nervous at the crucial moment. It is very, very tough. It gives you a little bit. My cat's name is Karen, says, Brittany, I follow a historian from the UK who went to the Cartier and was allowed to try on a couple tiaras. You should do that next time you're there. I will. If they let me do that, I will. For sure. Stacy says, Brittany, you're too critical on yourself. I don't see half the things you are doing wrong. Why, thank you. Some of my pictures, especially the gala event with the tiaras, were not very good, and I was really bummed. Lynn Gideon says, you're just getting better each time you go on these assignments. Yes, which is why I like to go. I like to get better. And really, there's only like, it's such a specific thing that it only really like, I can't even think of celebrities being the same in a lot of ways. It's like, royal photography is a very specific subsect of news photography in a lot of ways, because they don't stand there and pose for you all that much. They're very much moving, and you have security issues to deal with and these sorts of things that are just a bit different. So anyways, that is just our most recent adventures. So always very fun. Hold on. Is it as ever? So we do have to do kind of let's say the review of Harry and Meghan's latest thing with Oprah Daily. I have to see if we can see like the whole thing. Although I did think it was very, very interesting that when it came to Instagram, they only showed Harry first, which I thought was really, really funny. But let's see. Most recent. Because I don't know if we're getting the full thing from this, because I've seen a couple different segments from this little interview thing that they recently did on Oprah Daily. But let's go ahead and move over to this as ever bit, which I did want to focus, like, because I haven't had time to do it yet. And I just think it's so interesting. Oh, great question. Polish and Needle said, what did you think of the recent pictures of the Danish twins, Vincent and Josephine, for their 15th birthday yesterday? I did really like them. I did. We can look them up here real quick. And if we look at them, you can kind of see what I'm talking about when it comes to these pictures. So here's the Danish social media. These are the twins, Vincent and Josephine. And so they're at Amalienborg, which is actually made up of 4 different palaces. It's not just one. And so they're in a big circle. And so the palaces all sort of face each other. And the royals currently live on the ones closest to the water. So the twins turned 15. And so I do like these pictures. These are fairly, let's say, generic, but this is kind of cool with the blown outness in the back. This is what I'm talking about with some of the dynamism. I thought that picture was kind of cool. I like that her hair is moving. It gives this picture movement. And I like this picture a lot. Honestly, this is one of my favorite pictures. It's so cool of them walking around like the rooftop. It's so cool. And yeah, I really do like it quite a bit. And then when it comes to the pictures here, so again, it's like the cockeyed picture looks good. The movement, and again, he can be in places we can't as a photographer. So he did, I think, a good job. I think he does a really good job. So here is some, although we got somebody's arm in the way a little bit here, this is what we got from that morning. Again, I'll have to show you guys more pictures and videos that I got from some of this. But again, I just think and this is Mary without the coat on. So they actually came there in the carriage, and I was honestly a little disappointed when I got there. I was like, they came in the carriage. I was hoping they came in the carriage the day before because I was out there super early and everything. So I thought that was cool. They came in the carriage. And there was somewhere where you could kind of sort of see me. I think you might be able to see them entering. So this is them in the carriage. Is it kind of the video here? So that can give you guys an idea of how cold things were. So this is the hallway they enter where I got the pictures. So you can see all these people right here. And so you have the towers in the way, and then you have some people with really big video cameras for television. I understand that they obviously are Danish television, so I understand that. But it is very challenging. So you have to battle with all these. It's first come, first serve. And sometimes you think you choose the right spot. So I was actually the guy who's right here. I'm pretty sure I'm technically behind him somewhere over there, or I had already moved to the other side to get the other picture. So anyways, I think it's really cool all that they do. Anyway, so I really like their social media strategy here. I just don't like the whales as quite as much when it comes to their pictures. So, but that's just maybe, let's see, Prince. So you can kind of tell the difference here. So this is the picture from Catherine and William and their guy. And so it's just kind of a static picture, if you can tell. So it's not, so see, none of these are super exciting. They're nice. It's not that they're bad, but I can also probably buy about the same ones from, any of the photo agencies. I just think these need to be a little bit more dynamic. Not super, but dynamic. So, we can watch this here real quick, the winter. Is it playing? I think it is.
Even in the coldest, darkest season, winter has a way of bringing us stillness, patience, and quiet consideration, where the stream slows just enough for us to see our own reflection, to discover the deepest parts of ourselves, alongside the whispers and the pulse of every living thing. I find myself reflecting on how deeply grateful I am.
I actually love the shot there of her rings in the water. Just think that's super cool.
For the rivers within us flow with ease. Fears washed away. Cleanse and purify. Come to peace with our tears and discover what it means to be alive. To be at one with nature. A quiet teacher and a soft voice that guides. In memory, helping us to heal.
So that's latest of Catherine's series on winter. And so this played today, or went up today. So on Catherine's birthday. Very, very nice and lovely and relaxing to listen to. So very good. Again, I'm not so sure still what the point of those videos are, but they're very nice. They're very nice. They are soothing in a lot of ways. So I do really enjoy that component of them. So let's go ahead and move over to the absolute calamity. Oh, and we have Christina. Thank you so much for the for the gifted Royal News Network membership. I'm sure somebody will really, really appreciate that. Oh, my cat's name is Karen. Says I would absolutely buy a book read by Princess Catherine. It would be really nice. She does have a very lovely voice to listen to, for sure. All right. So let's get over to the calamity that is, as ever, and Meghan Markle. So I want to reiterate, because I feel like people have discussed this and keep thinking it's like white label and drop shipping or whatever. I think Meghan's team did the worst thing she could probably do in this situation, which is basically confirm that the stock numbers were correct. And I believe they were correct. Why? Because I saw the stock numbers move, and it wasn't like this weird movement. It was a very obvious, like, slow decline because people bought things. And like, that's sort of generous. It's not, if it was like more of like a drop ship thing where basically like they made stuff on demand, that would be, I think the numbers would differ wildly and they could be endless. So I think when it comes to, as ever, the numbers were right and the numbers are too much. Like, I see her fans claiming they flew off the shelves. And I'm like, no, they didn't. If you have 137,000 of the fruit spread trio boxes still in stock that were particularly developed for the holiday season, that means you have 137,000 people who did not buy your holiday stock. All of her holiday stock is still in stock. So I think that's like really critical to go over. And she wanted to kind of, I think, Meghan and whoever is on this team, which I don't know if it's anybody, try to mitigate this sort of disaster by saying, oh, they're real, but like that's only a snapshot of the situation. It's like, yes, of course, we know it's only a snapshot. However, the snapshot it shows just isn't all that good. It shows a brand that only moves about 200 products a day, and that is generous because in a 12-hour period, at one point, she could move 20 of the fruit spread trio boxes, but in a 24-hour period, she could only move 26. So instead of doubling from 20 to 40, she only gained 6 more sales in that next 12-hour period. So that tells me that things aren't moving very well. And she has so much. You only moved 26 in a 24-hour period, and you have 137,000 in stock. I think, honestly, the fruit spread trio box is the most egregious, and why I think most of us focus on it is because it is the most egregious of the situation. And what I found really interesting, if you kind of go back, the things that aren't selling well, like the orange marmalade, she still has 44,000 of those. You get a free orange marmalade. And then when it comes to some of the other things that she's highlighting, often they are the things that aren't selling, like, again, the fruit trio box or the honey boxes are selling a little bit. You also got to think, too, Meghan apparently apparently didn't think is that there wasn't really a whole lot of point to the box because it just didn't offer anything. It wasn't all that, let's say, exciting. So she's trying to, sell the hot toddy and cider, which did not sell out by the end of the holidays. And so Megan, because I think things aren't selling well. Yeah, I'm so sorry, guys, about the music. I meant to take that off. But we have taken off the music. But what I found really interesting to watch in some ways is this one video here. And of course, we'll go over this January thing, which makes no sense in that. But so she's saying thoughtful gifting with as ever. This is December 22nd. And so this is the holiday collection, which she did not sell out of. And she's still doing. So there's the holiday thing that, again, she has 137,000 of those still in stock. And as somebody pointed out on X, what they shared with me, which I thought was really interesting, is that even if Meghan is expanding internationally, why would you have 7 years worth of stock of something? Or in the case of the spread, 10 years worth of stock of something, basically. And so it just doesn't make any sense. And so I think we do need to listen to this one because she more talks, and that might be, of course, always revealing. But so
I love when a guest comes, they walk into the room. What do you welcome them with? A beautiful gift basket at the foot of the bed.
So, number one, who has the time, money, or energy if they're hosting somebody to put a huge gift box at the foot of their bed? Nobody. So this would make sense if you're hosting people, let's say, for a wedding. Like gift boxes are things people do for out-of-towners if they come to a wedding. That makes sense. For an average person staying, let's say, a couple of nights at your home, who's going to create a whole gift box for them? No one. No one. It's sort of crazy town to do that. She comes across to me, at least, as very overbearing as a host.
Have slippers out, have a candle lit.
So she has slippers out for them, which I find, again, who is she appealing to here? Because who has slippers? Excuse me. Because yes, it makes sense to have slippers on hand for, people who live in Asia. There's a big thing about not wearing your shoes inside the house. So there are house slippers. That is a thing, but it's not a thing here. And not everybody wants to wear slippers. And why would you light an unattended candle when you have no clue what that person is going to do in your room? Like for me, I'm always super careful about candles. And it's just like, yes, maybe have it going for a little bit, although the heat lamp candles have become a really big thing, which I think is really smart. It's like you put the candle under this heat lamp thing and it kind of diffuses the scent as if it's burning, but it's not really burning and it still melts a bit and stuff. It seems like a much, much better option than lighting a candle and putting slippers down. Because again, what if your guest doesn't like slippers? What if they prefer to go around bare feet, like Meghan Markle? She likes to go around bare feet. She shows us her bare feet all the time. But it's the ending here of this video that I thought was really interesting.
All the cozy comforts that really show.
So she's doing all this hostessing thing. And if you pause at the end, and this is so brief that I'm just going to pause it here. And you watch her, it looks like she hates you. She's not even smiling. She's not even, let's say, there's nothing warm about her expression here at all. There's zero warmth in this expression. And if your whole brand is about hostessing, shouldn't you be hostessing with joy and appreciation and gladness and thankfulness and being so excited to host people? She looks like she wants to murder you. I'm not saying that to be hyperbolic. She looks like she hates you. And it's an interesting, as Carol says here, which I think is true, it's an interesting mask slip. And I can't help but see and think that she actually tried to let's say film a bunch of things in one day. And this must have been at the end of the day. And she hated doing every second of it. And she could not maintain anything in this image. It's just again, it's a snapshot, but when you watch the whole thing, we'll try to watch it again, I guess, maybe encourage you because it's kind of hard to see it here. It's just, she just does not smile at you. And I'm like, you're selling a brand where you're supposed to be, joyful and like a happy host. It's like thoughtful giving or whatever. It's like you're doing things with love. Love is in the details, guys. Apparently not. Apparently not. Apparently Meghan hates the details or hates the love or something. I don't know which is which. But this reflects the overall problem with the brand and why the stock isn't moving. And in terms of the stock, I mean the actual like product stock, not, obviously like stock you would have at the New York Stock Exchange or something. And why the brand has failed to gain traction, because this as ever account has barely grown at all. Meghan Markle's Instagram account, her personal one, has barely grown at all, pretty much. And so she kind of grew steadily, then stopped. Then she did the baby mama dance, grew by like maybe 1 million followers, and then stopped, and then barely just recently ticked up to 4.3 million. As ever is stuck at like 880 some on thousand. It's been stuck there for a really long time. It's grown maybe by 10,000, and it's just not gaining traction. And I can't wait to see the numbers of the actual, let's say, like the second season of the show and stuff like that, because we know that the show failed, the show flopped. And so it's interesting to see the cope from Meghan and her stands constantly going, well, it was successful. She sold millions. Like, we have no evidence of that at all. In fact, we have evidence to the contrary that she still has, we can basically almost account for 1 million of the supposed jars that she ordered. And, they're saying, oh, everything was so successful. She's made millions on this. So it's like, but really? She just got let go of her staff. She just let go of her COO of her company. Like, that does not scream success. That screams failure to me. And at this point, if she's expended so much money on stock that she's not being able to sell very quickly, I mean, she has to hold on to that stock. She's probably paid for it with the revenue that she got from the first round. She paid, overextended and overpaid for the second round. So now she has a gazillions of products in stock, and she doesn't know potentially how to move them. Like, that is really, really bad from a business perspective. And the stuff she's selling is just kind of crappy. It's just crappy, no nonsense stuff. It's kind of like, you could get her stuff basically anywhere for half the price, if not like, 30% of the price or whatever. Like, her stuff is wildly overpriced. There's nothing even that she can claim about it that makes it, let's say, more unique or interesting. She can't say her spread is wholly organic. She doesn't really go with that round. She doesn't say it has, let's say, it's all from California or something. She can't say that, let's say, it's like totally unique in terms of that. Let's say there's like a special compound that, and this is just me trying to think of something that helps with like, digestion or something like that. Like, there's literally no tag that you can attach to her products other than that she's a duchess. There's no extra incentive to buy anything she creates. There is no extra benefit, no extra, let's say, elevation. Like, she's all about elevating stuff, but there's nothing about her products that I would argue are elevated in any way. They're just flat. They're just there. And it's like, that's just lame. I don't have any other word for it other than that. It's really, really lame. It really, really is, because there are ways that you can create something that I think is really interesting and dynamic, but that's not what Meghan is doing. That's not what she's created. And the brand overall, I think, is suffering because Meghan has nothing that she can really sell. She hasn't figured out how to sell things, and she hasn't figured out what makes her brand unique or interesting, because I don't think she cares enough about it to promote it in the way she should. And she does all these crazy sort of,
They want them to have a wonderful time.
that are just bizarre. And I'm like, why are you putting these filters on? It just needs to be you and your phone. Like, why are you making every little thing into a production? Like, there was nothing special at all about that napkin she just folded, guys, and put a ribbon around. She literally put a ribbon around a napkin, and that's it. Like, and I think what I find so amazing is that she could have done so much more, and this is all she's capable of. She could have done so much more. She could have made it so much more interesting. And this is all she's capable of. It's a really quite astounding in a lot of ways. And it's all ridiculously overdone in this modern era. Like, you don't need to overly produce like this. This is crazy town to me. And so again, she's sort of wearing the same thing, although I think she has a bigger turtleneck in the other video, but she like wants to, I guess, have this pared down appearance. And then she won't look at you. Like, the whole point of the social media thing is that you look at the camera. And she has to do this because Netflix won't renew her show because it sucked and nobody watched. It's just sort of crazy. And then we get to the next year, which is January. It says reset and rituals. And I look at these pictures and I'm like, what does any of this mean? I had to look up pomegranate. I guess pomegranates are a thing this time of year. Can't even remember why that was. Let's say. Oh, and she did this. This is a screenshot from that video where she said the quiche is in the oven because, she's too lazy to actually host you. She has these flowers, maybe that are January flowers. Her out in the garden with Lily. I mean, Megan, I was just in Denmark. There ain't no way I'm walking out in a garden right now. Are you crazy? Like, none of that even screams January, honey. None of it does. And I think it would have been much better for her and the company if they had really stuck with the California angle and almost really focus exclusively on the California market. But by trying to, I think, promote it to everyone, you're really almost promoting it to no one because it's like there is nothing in any of those pictures that I connect with January at all. And then she has this weird picture of Harry where he's half cut out in the pictures and it's really all about her and how he kind of, is supposed to worship her. And so we keep going. Oh, tea, like, but we can't even see your product, Megan. And I don't even know if that's your actual tea. Good morning, Keith. What does this say? Help yourselves. Whatever. Because, she's too lazy to host you. And, randomly in the garden, it's like, why? You need to make all of this is empty nonsense. She needs to start figuring out how to market this brand and not just put empty pictures out there. These pictures mean nothing. One of them was taken from a video you did. Like, so lazy. And then again, this to me confirms in many ways that the products that aren't moving are the ones she's promoting here. The lemon ginger tea is not bad. The honeys, I think, are somewhat struggling to move. This is the candle that she's having a tough time selling, which is her birthday candle. And then, a random picture of outside. Why? I don't know. What is the message here? I don't know. You got pretty pictures. And then, like, arranging dead flowers. Like, what even is that picture? She's so bad at this. She's so incredibly bad at this. It's really quite astounding because, like, you always think at some point she's going to figure this out, but she doesn't know what Instagram is anymore. She really has no idea, and it shows. It really does show that she has no clue how to do stuff on social media, what the social media game is, and it's why she's stuck again at 884,000. Like, most of that number is barely moved. It's been moved between like 878,000 and 884,000 now. So she's gained 6 in the last 5 months. I'd love to see the actual trajectory because I bet you it'd be quite interesting. And then she's kind of, let's see where she's at. She's slowly ticking up on Instagram, but not that much. Like, you would expect her to be huge. She's a very famous person in a lot of ways. And yet she can't really grow Instagram quickly at all. Yes, she grew it, to 1 million quite quickly and then 2 million and 3, but it hasn't grown much beyond that. And because of the fact she doesn't know who she is, she's constantly trying everything and not hitting the mark on anything, really. And it's just none of it is working. And I think she's starting to, that's somewhat why we have all the kind of the changing up this year is I think her and Harry both know none of this is working. They know none of it is working. And so they're desperately trying to figure things out. And so, and this is, I think, another reflection of how in so many ways Harry and Meghan are completely out of what most people are interested in and just have no connection to real people anymore because they're still constantly leaning on Oprah. Oprah is not a thing anymore the way it used to be. Oprah is not a thing. So, and I do think it's funny, and it's not the same way on Instagram, but or sorry, on TikTok, but here Harry's the only one in frame, which I find really funny because as if they know, yeah, nobody really likes Meghan Markle. So, I'm just curious here. Okay. So let's listen to a little bit of their little talk here. And there was another quote that somebody pulled and I couldn't find it. And I'll say this before we watch this new one. But I was talking about how, yeah, social media companies call their customers users. That's what drug people say. That's what they do. Like drug people call their, addicts call themselves users or something to that effect. I'm like, guys, but we use social media. It actually makes sense in how we function with it to use it. Use is not a euphemism for drug use, guys. Like you kind of sound crazy pants. And they just do. They just don't really have a good connection to reality anymore. And they sound ever more ridiculous when it comes to internet safety. And this, again, is the couple who dumped the Parents Network just like a year in. They dumped them and they went with somebody else. So, okay, hold on. There we go.
Is deeply affecting our collective and mental, emotional, and physical health. And obviously, a huge congratulations to you and the outcome of your research, which has created a parent-led movement, which is astonishing and much.
So I thought it was interesting that Harry keeps talking, and then you'll see Meghan interject because she can't stand it.
Needed.
And that we're proud to be a part of.
Yeah, hugely.
Yes.
And your insights have been.
She's like, then we're proud to be a part of. Yeah, but you dumped the Parents Network. You dumped the Parents Network. So how much do you really care? Because you literally threw those people away.
Incredibly valuable over the years for our work with parents who have lost their children to online harms.
But the parents, again, that you guys dragged onto CBS to share their horror stories and then dumped as soon as you could onto the Parents Together organization.
Yes.
And working towards solutions to keep all children safe. Can you speak to how the phone-based childhood, as you call it, affects kids' emotional development and what families can do to support healthier patterns?
Meghan looks totally disengaged from him in some ways. She really does look quite awful. So she's just not that engaged. But I think it's kind of dumb. They have the Amazing Generation sweatshirts. It reminds me of the shirt. I'm just super curious because if you guys remember, Meghan had this shirt with like Archie and Lily on it, and it was from this small company. It's like, it feels like that's the same.
Kids need to play. All mammals play. And once they get the device, it's going to push out everything else. They're going to have less sleep. They're going to stop reading books. They're going to stop spending so much time with other kids. They're not going to get as much sunshine, not as much exercise. So
like, this is all things Catherine is promoting. So it's like they're kind of feels like they're late to the party.
So as they get more and more into a screen-based life, all the things that children need to do get pushed down and pushed out by these screen activities that are engineered for addiction.
So yeah, because Harry's and Meghan's whole thing is that social media is engineered or whatever for addiction. And that might be somewhat true. I'm not like denying that, but it's also, again, social media is for adults, people. It's not for children. Why are you catering social media companies to children when they shouldn't even be on it? That, again, is a parental issue. It's not a social media company's issue. It's not their job to parent your kids. That's your job. And if you're somebody who, like some parents just want to shove an iPad or a phone in front of their kid all the time, yeah, you're probably going to have some problems. Like, I hate to say it, like not saying parenting is easy at all, but I remember in the mid 2000s when I was in college and I was working at an Italian restaurant, and I would see parents come in there with their portable DVD player, shove their kid down to eat and shove the kid into the portable DVD player so that they could watch it while the parents ate dinner. Now, I somewhat understand that, yes, it's difficult if your child is disrupting your dinner, but part of, I think, of being a parent is actually figuring out how to make sure your kids can sit and have a meal together with you without going out of control. And that again comes down to a parental decision. The parents didn't want to parent their kid during dinner. They wanted their kid distracted so that they could have dinner. Whereas in the olden days, everybody had to have dinner. There was no distraction, really. There was no iPad or anything to shove in front of a kid's face. Instead, you actually had to parent. You actually had to teach your kids how to sit at a dinner table. And again, I just always come back and always want to say this is a parenting decision, because don't let a company, don't let a government dictate what you're, in a lot of ways, what your kids can do. That is your job. Don't rely on them to protect your, at least when I grew up, my mom set the boundary. She didn't care whatever their parents did. She just wanted to do what she thought was best for us. And I didn't always agree, but that's sort of her right as a parent, is to say, no, you are going to do this regardless of what you want to do. You are going to do X. And that's it. So anyways, that's always a huge thing I always want to emphasize, because too many people, I think, kind of want to go down the Harry and Meghan route and just go, well, again, I would not be surprised if Harry and Meghan's kids get, iPads and phones super young. And they're like, well, we didn't let them get on social media. Oh, no, now we did let them get on social media. But we have parental controls. We watch it. Again, I think the Waleses live by what they preach. Harry and Meghan do not.
To
I don't
help
think
our
as much as
kids
their
develop
thing.
human skills and human relationships. And both of us have done a lot of research on human flourishing, what it takes to have a meaningful and full life.
I kind of hate these sweatshirt things that they're wearing. I feel like it's so gimmicky and dumb.
And relationships, human relationships, are at the top of that.
So that's it. Again, I don't know where the other quote came from. But yeah, this is from Oprah Daily. And the thing is, too, what's really interesting about Meghan and why I think she wildly overstocked her as ever spread, gift box, is that if you come over here to her site, she claims over here, featured in Oprah Daily, guys, because she really does think Meghan has such a weird 2000s mindset. She's really stuck in that era. And for me, it's obvious that Oprah Winfrey giving something a lift barely moves the metric. I don't think anyone really cares that much anymore about what Oprah Winfrey thinks. In fact, there's a whole movement kind of discovering how, let's say, toxic she is for the culture, how toxic she was, how she kind of exploited people and their tragedies for clicks and views. It was very classily done, but it was still sort of the same thing. People are really waking up to that. And so this idea that Meghan had, I think, this is what I truly believe, is that she thought if she could slap Oprah approved on her signature fruit spread box, I bet you she stocked, I want to say she probably stocked 150 to 175,000, maybe 200,000 if I'm being generous. She stocked so much because she believed having that Oprah Winfrey label will move her product, when that's just simply not true anymore. It's just not true at all. That is what moves the metric. It just doesn't in the slightest. And we can see that that is not the case at all. It's not the case that it moves the metric. It just doesn't move it anymore. And it's just being realistic and being in a, let's say, a more kind of reality-based situation, maybe you don't end up looking like a fool. Because we have these in style, Good Housekeeping, Elle, she paid for all these, featured on or whatever. But this Oprah Winfrey label, I think she truly thought was going to be gangbusters, and it wasn't. And I will also say as well, she created this box, and I think she thought the box would sell it. But the thing is, much like this, I had the keepsake box from the original raspberry spread. Oh yeah, it was my Kleenex dispenser. I put Kleenex in here. I kind of forgot about that. Anyways, but it's kind of a useless piece of garbage, to be honest. It's not useful at all. It's very made for Meghan's products. So you can't let's say there's an octagonal shape in here or whatever, or a hexagonal, 6 sides. So there's this shape in here. You can't take this shape out. If you could take this shape out, maybe it'd be worth it. But it's her sort of quote unquote keepsakes like aspect of it no longer works. To make that work, which I think can, you have to actually make the keepsake cool. You have to make it interesting. So I will tell you guys a story. So I went to Dunkin' Donuts not too long ago, and I'm not even a fan of Wicked. I don't care about the musical at all. Haven't seen it, don't care. But they had this little tin that you can get the little munchie donuts in, like the round ones. And it was like super cute. So I bought and probably paid an absurd amount for the stupid tin of a thing I don't even care about because I thought the tin looked cute. And so like I cleaned it out after I was done and everything. It's probably sitting in my pantry somewhere. I don't know what I'm going to do with it. I'm probably just going to toss it at some point. Why did I get it? I don't know. But I was actually convinced to invest in this dumb tin because I was like, even though I was not a fan of the actual thing it was promoting, it looked cool. And it kind of fit with, the little like donut holes that they had. So Meghan could have had the same thing. Really, what should have happened is that for these products, this should have been standard in the box because she has this fruit spread trio. So, and she's asking $6 more just for this plain box. What should have happened is this should have been the standard and then at $36. And then the elevated should have been a really cool box that you could use in a variety of ways. That is how it should work. And like, other than that, like none of this is not reusable. This is not reworkable. Like this whole idea that she thinks these box things are going to help sell the products are just absolutely asinine. I just don't understand. She's not even doing the keepsake. I just realized this. She's not even doing the keepsake packaging for the orange marmalade anymore. That's sort of interesting. That's not even an option, as if she realized it was just kind of dumb, which it was. Oh my gosh. But I can't imagine being this. But I did want to share with you guys real quick, People Magazine, of course, which gets, direct access to Harry and Meghan. This is all like the cope, and it's almost that I would say I would have suggested that they just keep their mouth shut about the whole leak and just kind of ignore it, and it probably would have gone away. And if you focus too much about it, people would have thought you were crazy. But instead, they bring even more attention to it, basically confirm all the aspects and points of it are true. And then we get these cope things, which I feel like make it look even worse. And it says here, a source with inside knowledge of the business says the inventory figures point to the brand's momentum, not a slowdown. While it's normal for a business not to talk about the sales data, I think it's fair to say that the glitch that led to this data being revealed points to a business that isn't just successful, it's flying literally off the shelves. Sure, you have like 500,000 products in stock or something. I counted it. It's 500,000 odd products in stock, and you could only sell 200 in a day. That's 0.03% of your stock. That's not flying off the shelves. I think flying off the shelves would be thousands a day at least. And so no. So in a recent interview, Meghan inadvertently referenced a purchase order of 1 million units for a single product, which again, was kind of a dumb thing to do, because I could go and I calculated, guys, and based on the stock she has 600,000 jars that she hasn't that are for sale right now between the trios and the orange marmalade, because you have to double that. And then, but when it comes to the she did purchase 1 million units, that means at the most, and granted this is the most, she has sold 300,000 plus a little bit and change over in that million order. So she's only gone through a third of that million order, sold potentially. But I imagine not everything was made. Some of them were broken when they arrived. I'm sure not everything and that was of course a minority of a minority. But I'm sure they had batches that were wrong. Not everything could be made, these sorts of things. And so this whole idea that she's doing gangbusters here, and I'm like, what? And so it says the large stock order was obviously part of an international expansion plans the Duchess has spoken about for the brand. And so I don't know if I said this or not. It doesn't take a genius to work out that what is left points to a company doing extremely well. It doesn't. That large stock order was obviously part of the international expansion plans that she has spoken about for the brand. So they say it's doing well, and then they deflect by going, oh, she's just stocking for international. Okay, but the fruit spread was part of the quote unquote holiday collection. You still have 137,000 of the holiday collection. I don't believe it's the holidays anymore, guys. I don't think it's the holidays anymore. So you're going to keep all that stock for next year for the holidays? I don't know. Like the amount of like crazy lies is kind of sort of insane. And I do have to say, Kate Manessy here really kind of like really, I don't know if she's trying to be joking or something, but it's kind of really dumb what she said. So I just wanted to point this out because I think she does largely good reporting, but this was like a really dumb conclusion to make because she said here, sources close to the business suggest the figure for the jam represented the number left in stock after original purchase order of 1 million. If accurate, it means Meghan has sold 862,535 boxes of her signature fruit spread worth 36 million or 26.7 million. Okay, number 1, Kate, she said she ordered jars. You have to divide the jars by the trios. You can't just say it's all like, no, that's not how this works. So at the most, again, I did the calculations. At most, you could say she actually sold 300,000 or so jars, just jars of whatever. And that would be combined within the trios and the single editions. So there's just no way that's true. And if she was sitting on $36 million, you would bet your bottom dollar she'd be screaming about it from the rooftops. She, again, would run to certain outlets to go, oh yeah, we sold out. We're selling out this, that. Oh my gosh, we increased our order by 10, whatever. And it's like, I like Carol here. The math ain't mathing. No, it's not. No, it's not. You don't get rid of your COO when your company is raking in $36 million. Like that's a flat out lie. That is not, the math doesn't work. And like, honestly, I don't mean to kind of pick on Kate because I do think she does largely good work, but here, I don't know exactly what she's talking about because, like, again, you have to divide the number by the trios. When you sell 3, that means you have to divide everything into a third when it comes to, So we don't know how much she's made, but I don't think it's a considerable amount. And I think it's been largely, they've made some purchase more. And I think they're in the hole, honestly. I think they're honestly in the hole at this point. I would not be surprised if they're not making that much. But that's just my opinion. I don't know for sure. But again, if you have still a ton of your holiday stock left, their holiday collection, didn't do that well. Again, the numbers don't lie. Again, I do have to do like an entire breakdown for you guys. I do apologize for not having that. But again, travel barred me from doing a lot of things. And it would have been weird because it was like a completely full flight. And, I was already tired and I had somebody right next to me. I always feel like it's really weird to write certain things on like a plane. If I had been by myself in a row or something or like in different class, I would have done it. But I really wanted to get home, guys. And so I had to yeah, we had at one point though where we had a free space, but because our plane kept sitting, they kept adding more people to our flight, and it was very annoyed because I almost had a free empty space in our middle, and we did end up having that. It was sad. We do have though Teresa Holtum 1630. Thank you so much for the super chat. It said, hello, Brittany and chat from cold, wet Northwest England. Hope everyone is good. Sorry I'm late. Now the Hound of California should have started a business. Maybe she should keep her eye on the slave fox of California. Yes. Oh my gosh. So again, I have always argued and said that Meghan could have been really successful. But this company has been botched from the jump. American Riviera Orchard. That's what she started off with. She sent to her celebrity pals with branding a company name she couldn't use, a product she just introduced last month, which is the strawberry spread, but she gave them jam. And so it's like everything has been botched here. Everything has been botched. And so it's not a surprise that we have more basically failure. Because the failure is just obvious. It's so obvious. Like, how can you avoid it? It's just there. It's just on the nose. Everything is just absolutely insane for sure. And it's one where it's just the writing's on the wall here. She should have spent more time instead of trying to, kind of upstage Catherine and William or whatever. Meghan should have spent more time trying to figure out her company. And if even this is the genre is not the right word, but the kind of category she wanted to go into, because I just don't even think she cares about hosting. I don't think she cares. I don't think she likes it. Like, so many different things. And so this whole idea that she is, there could have been so much, like, again, she could have been very successful, but she needed to move in the right direction. And Asma asks a good question. Is Netflix picking up anything? So they haven't picked up their Girl Scouts thing. And there's definitely no season 3 of With Love, Meghan. So because there's no season 3, like, even if she came out with the cookbook, she can't promote it well because the show's dead. And they already gave away all the recipes on the show, except for her mother's gumbo. That's the one thing they wouldn't post, which I thought was very annoying, because it's like you're making a big fuss about it and then you're not sharing the recipe, but you'll share every other recipe. And so it's like that could be the thing waiting for the book, but then how much that really matters at the end of the day, I don't know. It's all just absolute shenaniganry, absolute calamity and catastrophe. And yeah, so moving on just real quickly here to Prince Harry. Obviously, I do have to look at, because the Times of London piece did come out just fairly recently. So let's pull this up here real quick, because I want to see. So Harry's jumping the gun again. So as the Duke of Sussex, and again, the Times is generally the newspaper of record, which is why I'm very critical on the Meghan piece, because it doesn't make a lot of sense. And, the Times is basically the highest profile newspaper, like the newspaper of record, like the New York Times. It should have the best reporting, and that was just not the best reporting on As Ever, because obviously, again, you should be able to include the reality of trio sets. It says, as the Duke of Sussex prepares to return to the UK this month for a high-profile court case, reports have suggested that a decision to reinstate the Duke's police security was nailed on. Sources close to the government process, however, have told the Times that a risk assessment of the Duke has not yet been concluded. So again, I would argue Harry and Meghan are lying. Meanwhile, relations between Harry and the palace are once again strained by the suggestions that courtiers could scupper his long-running battle for police protection. After hopes of reconciliation between Harry and the king, it paints a rather different picture to the scene just 4 months ago at Clarence House, when father and son were reunited over a cup of tea. So after their 15-minute meeting in September, a beaming Harry was asked about how the king was, and he replied, "He's great. Thank you." Since then, however, the relationship between father and son appears to have stalled. So, biggest thing here, the risk assessment has not been concluded. So this is not a foregone conclusion. So Harry, once again, I think personally, is lying. And he has this court case coming up, which he could lose the crap out of. And he would have to pay millions upon millions of pounds if he loses. And like, you almost, again, want him to lose these cases in some way, because the one thing he's not getting a lot of, which would be nice if his father did, is consequences to his decisions. This grown man needs some consequences, and he's not getting there. So hopefully, guys, soon we will have basically all this wrapped up. But it's not looking super good for Harry. And I think if I was a government official, I'd be annoyed that he's already claiming he got his security back when they're like, we are not even done yet. Why are you celebrating this? We're not even done. It's so absolutely, absolutely crazy. But Harry and Meghan are, of course, both calamities in their own way. And I think the calamitous mistakes that they have made will end up costing them a lot of their money. I think whatever money they've made will be consumed by taxes, or not taxes really, but, consumed by their lifestyle that they can't pay for. And there definitely will be no appetite for Harry if he gets IPP and Donald Trump finds out about it and he's, says he's being forced to do this. He will raise a fuss. And so I don't think, It's there. But guys, that is all I have for today. But let's get to some of your questions and comments. I did see this. Goho Me Kid said, Meghan is a pathological liar. My brother's best friend was also, and they can't tell the truth. Maybe smidge here and there, and that's it. Yeah, because the truth is always, I feel like, camouflaged and a whole bunch of lies and narrative pushing. It was kind of funny again that Meghan's had whoever the PR person is, basically in an overly long verbose sentence, complained and lectured people that they don't understand the media and the outlets. It's like, no, that's not it. We just don't believe you. So, Lizzie B said, thank you, Miss Brittany. You are welcome. Go Home Kid said, it's very weird to have no patience. My pet peeves, a liar and thieves. Yeah. I don't have a lot of patience for, like, what is the word? Irrationality. Like, I can get behind something if it's a rational decision or whatever, but when it's like nothing makes sense, I'm like, okay, come on. Sabuk Yoji Mojibo says, living with Meghan is a consequence. Yes, it is. I don't think anybody thinks living with her is a joy. Like, she seems like even just staying with her briefly, I think, is an unbearable experience. Because again, she wants to, shower you with slippers and carts and stuff. But it's like, you got to wonder too what she's expecting of you. Like, she's giving you all this stuff, but at the same time, she'll shove a quiche in the oven and go, oh, fix it yourself. I would be nervous in a house like that expensive that I would break something. Princess Goose says, could they already be bankrupt? No, I don't think so. But are the revenue streams starting to dry up? Yes. I think that's definitely the case. I don't remember if I said Lizzie B gifted one Royal News Network membership, and so did Christina. Just wanted to double check, make sure I didn't miss those here. Oops. There we go. Kubrick says, if Meghan boasted she's made millions off her As Ever business, then why is she and Meghan blackmailing British taxpayers for their security, especially as they are millionaires? So, like, I get what you're saying, but I think definitely when it comes to Meghan, if she could be boasting right now on the success of As Ever in the Christmas holiday season, she would be. Again, we have the instances where, like, the initial launch, she ran to Harper's Bazaar like at least twice with claims of business success and flourishing. And then one time to, like, InStyle, which I was like, that's even around. And so she has people she goes to claim and success. But we really haven't seen that a lot again for As Ever. It's kind of like with Meghan, it kind of stalled and crashed and burned. And so when it comes over for the government paying their security, I mean, it's a $2 million a year bill, I'm sure, that they're paying, maybe even in excess of that. And do I think they need some security? Yes. Do they need as much as they have? No. Do they need to be followed around every day by security? No, I don't think so. I think they're probably perfectly fine in their little enclave, but they seem to think they need it. And the unfortunate thing is, like, that's going to cost you a lot of money, and that will drain your bank accounts quite quickly. And the house is a money pit. The house is very expensive. They obviously as well don't have the money to renovate. I think they would renovate if they could. I don't think they had the money to. And it was just from a Reddit post, so I don't know how much of it is true, but talking about how Meghan initially claimed to real estate agents that they were going to flip the house, but they obviously haven't. And while the grounds, I'm sure, are beautiful, the house looks dated to me, like really dated. And so I think if they had the money to update everything, they would. Dr. M says it's just Meghan and Harry outcomes as settled when they're still procedural, conditional, or incomplete. Yes. And it's kind of forcing something in a way. But Seabass says they have millions, just not millions coming in. Exactly. They don't have, I think, the big revenue streams they used to. Asma says UK doesn't want to alienate other countries by giving IPP status to Harry. It won't happen. We care more about other countries and our relationship with them than even the government will care about it. Yeah, I don't think they will give him IPP status, just because it's going to be a pain in the butt. And Donald Trump, who they're trying to woo, is going to be ticked. And he's going to be going, no, I don't want to pay for it. Like, and nobody in the United States wants to pay for this. And me and others, if this happened, I'd be like, you're paying for Harry's security. Your tax dollars are paying for this guy who doesn't really, lives here, claims he doesn't understand our First Amendment at all, wants us to pay for his security. Like, that will not go down well, like, by any stretch of the imagination. Lucy says, thanks, Princess Goose. Only the media haters call her Kate, though I heard Brittany's explanation before. It's cringe when I see people on our side calling her Kate. Can't stand it. So, guys, the reality is Kate versus Catherine is not a hill to die on. It's just really not. It's just something that's not going to change. They're using Kate because that's what the vast majority of the public knows her as. That's just reality. Doesn't matter what you think. If you are very engaged in this, that's fine. But anytime anybody asks me about the royals, they ask me, how's Kate Middleton? They never ask me, how's the Princess of Wales or Princess Kate or Princess Catherine? They don't care. And that is because that is the vast majority of the general populace's understanding. That's how they came to know her. That is how they will continue to refer to her as, probably forever. Just being honest. It's not really a hill to die on. It's not really something that's going to make a huge difference at the end of the day, whether it's Catherine or Kate. And if Catherine is smart, and I think she is, she's probably made her peace with that and doesn't really care. She was called Kate. William did call her Kate in the engagement interview. This is just not an argument to die on. In certain instances, yes, I think pushing back is fine. Like on the BBC, they are the news source of record in the UK for like television and those sorts of things. They should be held to a higher standard. But pretty much everyone else is always going to call her Kate Middleton, guys. That's just going to be how it is. They're probably going to call her Queen Kate. I don't think the whining is probably going to change much about that, to be honest, because they're going to go by what the most people know her as, not the fervent, strong royal watchers. They're just not going to care that much. They're going to go by what most people know her as. Alma Sky says, it's surprising that Catherine conducts herself as 100% royal and Harry's born as royal is the opposite. Yeah, that happens quite a bit sometimes. Summer Alford says, people don't buy from someone they don't like. Doesn't she know that she's more unlike them, P. Diddy? Somewhat true. Auntie Meme says, they got millions from his inheritance and their deals, but they probably have blown through a lot. They can always sell their house because they're probably appreciated quite a bit. Yeah, I mean, somewhat, but we shall see. And you also said their lifestyles are those of grifters. That's the way they want to do the full royal tours in other countries, so others pay their costs. Yeah, and that doesn't go over well with most people. My cat's name is Karen says they are absolutely broke. They are definitely, I think, running on fumes at this point. I don't think as ever. Again, if you're sitting on, let's see, it's 42, it's like almost $6 million worth of stock of Trio fruit spreads. Now, granted, they didn't pay $6 million for that, but they were expecting the $6 million to come in from that to offset whatever cost they did put into making it. And so, you know, they could be out millions of dollars right now waiting for her stuff to sell, and it's not selling. Carol says, Meghan is a cheapskate. She always goes for other people to pay his bills. Yes. So Seabass says he has bodyguards around him already. So what Harry wants are guns. In the UK, he wants guns and intelligence. That's what he wants. So Azima says, we cannot afford that cost of living here. Rich people need to pay it themselves, not us. Peasants, they call racist. Yeah. Zeb says, Meghan thinks she looks special with the multiple guards and will not live within her means like Sarah York. Yeah. There's just not that. Again, Harry and Meghan's probably biggest threat is an egg thrown their way. Like, they might have some other things, but honestly as well, though, they antagonize people. They increase their own security risk. Summer Alford says the products at Soho House have been repurposed as dust collectors. And Angela says Harry and Meghan only need security for their egos, nothing else. I agree. My cat's name is Karen says Charles would never let Harry go completely broke. He'll bail him out if he hasn't already. I don't think he will. Honestly, again, guys, the royals are not rolling in cash. Like, they don't have a ton of cash to throw around. They really don't. Charles now is responsible for Sandringham and Balmoral, the upkeep and maintenance of those properties, huge properties. He has Highgrove. Yes, he makes money from the Duchy of Lancaster, and that money and revenue he brings in appreciates, but he also is paying for Edward and Sophie, paying for Andrew now, paying for Anne to a certain extent. He doesn't have that much cash to like bail them out. There's just not that much, again, liquid assets for royals. Han Conservative says, don't forget taxes in California that is planning on implementing a wealth tax next year. Also, they must be freaking out for the billionaires are already leaving to avoid it. Yep. Auntie Mamie says, they probably said they were going to flip the house. So when they forced to sell, they make it look like it was their idea. Maybe, but at this point, it's not a flipping and they haven't done any adjustments. Aristotle said Meghan won't divorce Harry until after 10 years due to the better divorce benefit under California law after 10 years. Fasten your seatbelts for 3 more years. Well, we'll see. Go Home Kid says, we absolutely agree, Brittany. Seabass says, agree, Brittany. I thank you. Clifford says, why did they take a mortgage instead of buying outright? You're right. They cannot afford to renovate the house. Think of the millions they use for Frogmore and the British taxpayers were paying. Oh, and actually another reason why they probably won't sell the house or probably will only sell the house as a last resort is because when they bought the house, the interest rates were so incredibly good. Because I was, been looking at buying a house recently, and I was looking at a house in my neighborhood, and I was looking at the amount paid per month, even if you paid 10%. And I was like, that seems like a lot for that house. And that's because the interest rates are still so high. They bought at one of the best times to buy because the interest rates were so low. And so it's actually probably good for them to have kept the mortgage. But at the same time, when it comes to, let's say, selling, they'd have to go they might get a good profit out of it, but all that profit would be completely and utterly absorbed in and eaten up in the next house and the mortgage on that house. So they almost have to keep the house because they can't afford to move anywhere else. That would be my guess. There was a whole article about it in like the Wall Street Journal about people who bought when the interest rates were super low. And it was more like, let's say, people who were, I don't know what to say, it's like empty nesters who want to downsize and want to get rid of, a big house because bigger houses obviously are more maintenance, but it's too expensive for them to move. They want to be able to get something like that they would want within their budget. Len Gideon says, I could see Trump deporting Harry if the country has to pay for his protection. It's an option. I think he would. Dr. M says, many celebrities do PR this way. In short, the certainty is louder than the facts, which usually means reality is still in progress. Yes. Zeb says, Katie Couric interview, she was calling her Kate to be snarky and rude, very apparent, and she came across as the bully. She has fallen. I mean, that's your interpretation, but the reality is most people know her as Kate Middleton. That's just it. Lenny says, I don't think Princess Catherine minds being called Kate Middleton, mainly because she isn't ashamed of her family and who she was before meeting Prince William. Yeah, and honestly, guys, I would say that the reality is, if Catherine was so obsessed with people calling her Catherine instead of Kate, she would drive herself crazy because it's just not going to work. They tried it when they first married. Guys, they tried to change it from Kate to Catherine back in 2011. Didn't stick. Not going to stick this time either. It might stick when she's queen, but I think that's still going to be a bit of an uphill battle, to be honest. So, yeah. Teresa says, Catherine has to be called Catherine, not Kate. Like, they tried it. I think it was their attempt again to get away from Lady Katie and everything. Didn't work. It's not going to work, most likely. I don't even think when she's queen it's going to work. It just is what it is. Again, better to accept what is more likely to not change than to be obsessed with trying to change something. I feel like that's why Meghan drives herself crazy. Is she's so obsessed with changing how people perceive her that she almost drives herself crazy and makes things worse because she can't accept that people just don't see her that way. And I think that's just kind of a smart way to go about it, to be quite honest. Because otherwise, again, you're going to drive yourself crazy and it's just not worth it. It's just not a hill to die on. A name is just not a hill to die on. It's just not. I think she was called Kate. William has called her Kate. Like, they tried, I think, as a PR move, and it just never stuck. And I just don't think it probably ever will stick. So you can keep trying, but honestly, most people still call her Kate Middleton. Teresa Holtum, thank you so much for the super chat, said Meghan is hated in the UK and Harry is just like, it's not race, it's their actions. Exactly. And that's what I think is so incredibly important, is that we're judging Meghan always based on her character, based on her decisions, not the content, like not her skin tone. I don't care. She could be purple for all I care. That doesn't even matter. That's not even what I'm looking at. And I find, honestly, that the people are most racist are those sometimes defending Meghan because the only reason they're doing so is because of the color of her skin. They only like her because of the victim narrative she claims, not because they probably really like her or would like her at the end of the day. They just want to protect her because of the victim narrative that she claims. And they see something in her, which I don't think she would really reciprocate to them, to be quite honest. Again, it was interesting watching this conversation when it came to Meghan and how she wasn't good at royal engagements. Like, the woman trying to defend her was Black. And just hard not to notice that. Why is she defending Meghan? Is it because she really knows all that much about it? Or is she just doing it based because she feels a connection to Meghan because of their shared heritage? Like, but that should not be an excuse to ignore Meghan's fallacies when it comes to her character. And that's why people have not liked her. And that is why the dislike continues and grows year after year, is because of her actions, not because of the color of her skin. The British press doesn't really care that much. So, anyways, Lenny Gideon says, I've heard rumors of a move to Palm Beach, Florida, a tax-free state. It's a lot of celebrities have moved to Florida, like Tom Brady, Ivanka Trump, and Jared Kushner. We have Jeff Bezos has a place there, like Gisele Bündchen, like a whole bunch of celebrities have kind of relocated. Sydney Sweeney have relocated to Florida. I don't see Harry and Meghan doing that because, again, I think Meghan is stuck in that mid-2000s mindset. She thinks Hollywood is the end-all be-all, but it's like a dying town, so not super good. Lindy says, if they stay married for 10 years, would that mean Harry could collect Social Security benefits off Meghan's work history? LOL. No idea. I do not know. So Catherine says, if Harry doesn't get the security he wants, he has to set up the responsibility to the rest on his dad's shoulders. Yeah, I don't think that's... Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how the security stuff goes. But yeah, he will like claim his dad interfered. Anne Lid Slot said, I had to go back. So I just saw the silly jumpers. The man looks like my generation and in my mother's generation. Our kids would not watch TV and eat dinner at the same time. Yeah, those sweaters are bad. The Amazing Generation sweaters are horrible. I'm like, oh gosh, guys. Princess Goose says, I agree Catherine is proud of herself and who she is before and now. Yes, I just don't think the Catherine versus Kate debate is really, I feel like it's more distractionary and not really gonna actually make much of a difference. It's one of those things where it's like, I'm not interested in the surrogacy debate because what I think it does is it distracts from real criticism of Meghan Markle's behavior, because you're talking about the surrogacy thing, which you can't prove, which is mere speculation, conspiracies, these sorts of things. And so it's a deflectionary and distracting tactic over here. And then there's real things to criticize that are kind of ignored. And so that is why I think, yes, if you want to debate and get all enraged about the Catherine versus Kate debate, I mean, I guess you can, but honestly, it's just not really worth it. I don't think it's a hill to die on. I don't think Catherine probably cares that much. Really, at the end of the day, she understands. And again, she's a mature, understanding adult. She understands. That's how a lot of people talk to her. They probably say Kate a lot. And if she took it personally every single time, it would drive her crazy. It's just, again, accepting one of those things that you just cannot change. And think about it as, you know, a love for your family and these sorts of things. And this is how people connect with you. It's been there for so long. And yes, it might change. Yes, it might not. And I think some of it, you know, some of it was just to get away from the Waity Katie thing, which has gone away naturally. Just gone away over the times. Nobody even really thinks about it anymore. And that's just sometimes what happens. P Pacific says, Brittany was hoping for a few Europe photos, seeing backdrops with you on Fab Trip. You got all those cameras. Yes, I do have some. I don't take some out all the time just because they're really, really heavy. And sometimes it's just easier. The phone does really well with like scenic shots. So I do have some great ones. I'll share it with the members just because it's just so bad. Yeah, Lucy says, Brittany, have you talked about the new video Princess Catherine released this morning? Yes. Talked about it earlier. Philippa Hussein says, good to see you back safely. Thank you so much for the super chat. Yes, so bad. So glad to be back. I was really worried. Honestly, so it was actually really scary landing in France. We'll wrap it up here real quick. Is that when we were arriving, I kept looking out. I like the aisle. I was in the middle because, again, I was the last minute addition to the flight because they had to change my stuff. And I was like, watching us trying to land. And I was like, I don't see the ground. I don't see the ground. I think we're close to the ground, but I don't see the ground. And we didn't see the ground until like literally we were 50 feet in front of it. Like the fog and everything was super duper duper bad. So, and there was like snowing and everything, snow on the ground. But I was flying SAS, which I don't normally fly because sometimes they weigh your like overhead cabin baggage. And my cabin baggage is heavy because it's cameras. So I was like really hoping they didn't give me flack for that. And so as we were landing, I was like, well, I feel comfortable landing with the SAS guys because, you know, they're Scandinavian airlines. They're used to snow on the ground. So yeah, I just thought that was very, very, very interesting. So guys, we will go ahead and wrap it up here. Thank you so much for tuning in. So glad to be back. I got to finish up another video. I'll probably do maybe a couple things this weekend to catch up because it's been a while. And again, I need to kind of give you all a breakdown of the stuff I found with As Ever in the stocks in written form, because I think that's the best way to share it. But guys, thank you so much. Happy New Year. Happy 2026. And I look forward to seeing you again very, very soon here. Bye.